Joining me today is Arthur Halleran from Trillion Energy. In this interview, I ask Arthur about his background. We talk about Trillion and how it fits into the macro backdrop of everything that's happening with natural gas prices in Europe. We discuss how much natural gas the company hopes to be producing in the relatively near term, and we discuss what the company plans to do with all the cash flow they're about to start generating. We found out about this company when oil and gas first started running. We tried to look at a bunch of names. Not many were catching a bid, but Trillion was. They've recently raised $31 million, and we think that the story might be just getting started. When oil and gas started running, being small cap guys, we were really interested in finding oil and gas names that we thought had a chance to give us the torque and really run. As we looked at various opportunities, we found that there weren't many names that were actually gathering much retail interest, and that's in large part because the world's now so focused on ESG investing. That being said, cash flow is cash flow, and I don't care if you're giving out a dividend or doing share buybacks. When you have an opportunity like what exists here for Trillion, with everything that's happening with natural gas prices in Europe, we think that we've got something that's got a lot of torque here and a ton of upside. And one thing that's really got us scratching our head as Canadian small cap investors is we just may have a company here that is about to start cash flowing in the near term at a level that where they're currently trading at puts us at around 1 times projected free cash flow based on the numbers that Arthur's given us. So guys, sit back, enjoy the interview, and let us know what you think in the comment section. Art, thanks so much for joining us today.
Nice to be here, Steve.
Okay, so for all of our new guests who are new to our audience, what can you tell us about your background? How did you get into the oil and gas sector?
Okay, well, I'm the CEO right now of Trillion Energy, and I have about 42 years of oil and gas experience. I have a master's and also a PhD in petroleum geology, and I got interested in geology in British Columbia, Canada, as a kid with my father, and then I found out that you could actually get paid for doing it. So I went to university, and then right from university, I went to Calgary, and 42 years later, I'm sitting here. I've worked and lived in about 29 different countries. One of the co-founders of Canacol, also Rally Energy, and a number of other companies.
Wow. Okay, so how have you found the just general transition here for oil and gas? I mean, you've seen some stuff. You saw a huge boom there, say, 10, 15 years ago, where there was lots of money being raised in oil and gas, to this transition to ESG where nobody wanted to invest in it. Now it looks like there's some special opportunities where investors are starting to open their eyes to, such as what you guys have in Turkey. How challenging has it been over the years to stick around and keep at it when, you know, I'm sure that many of the people that you've worked with left the industry altogether?
Yeah, I started this in like I say 1980, so I've seen many cycles, so good times and bad times, and the last bad time was around 2015. So a lot of my people my age, they quit, but there's always going to be a need for oil and gas. And when I saw the opportunity in Turkey, there's a niche market always in Turkey. It always had a high gas price there. So where other areas, like if you want to find gas in Canada, it's pretty difficult when it was $2.35 to raise capital. Whereas we've always had $7 to $8 MCF in Turkey because they import 90% of their gas. Right now, with $21 an MCF US, I wouldn't say it was easy to get money, but it was a lot easier than before. And initially, when we started to put the pieces together to raise the money, we listed on the Canadian Security Exchange, and we had investors lined up, and that was February 2020, and that's when COVID showed up. And so everything got put on the back burner. And like you say, it was pretty tough. We end up putting a lot of what I call COVID paper, 5 to 6 cents just to survive. But then things swung around. We started to get eyes on our project in Turkey. And then there was the invasion of the Ukraine by Russia, and then everything just went skyrocket.
So I want to dive in there a bit. So Austria just announced it's progressing, that they're weaning themselves off Russian oil and gas. We got a variety of other European countries that are doing the same. How does this impact Turkish oil and gas companies?
Turkey will always import a large percentage of their gas from Russia. They right now have agreed to accept or pay in rubles. And so they are importing their gas from Russia. The issue is that there's a big competition for the same gas. Europe is never going to be able to, in a short term, wean itself off Russian gas without some big step change like homegrown natural gas, allowing fracking, more LNG ports and transportation, things like that to get gas from different sources in Russia. I mean, some of the countries are going to be able to, but other ones are not going to be able to. That's just my opinion.
Okay, so let's talk about Trillion Energy. High level overview. What stage is the company at? You guys just raised a lot of money. What is that being used for? For investors that are totally new to the story, what can you tell us about Trillion Energy?
So Trillion Energy, we have no debt. We raised over 30 million US, and we have that. We have a very large offshore natural gas project that we had bought for about $2.7 million US, but it's worth about, assets at the time to replace it would be 600 million. And so we have 4 platforms, the subsea gathering system, onshore facility, and a sales line. And so in 2007, 2011, they drilled 8 gas fields. They only put 4 on production. And so now with our $30 million, we're going to go and put those other 4 to 5 gas fields actually onto production. We're going to drill directionally from the existing platform. And so that every 45 to 48 days, we'll have a new gas well on. There won't be any more CapEx for infrastructure or time. So in a very concise story, we're a company that has no debt. We have money. We have a very good place to spend that money. And the commodity that we're going to produce, we're going to get $21 MCF for it.
Wow. Not sure if the company's put out any sort of forward guidance, but any sense of, based on the drilling that you're doing and the production that you have coming online, what that could mean for revenue for the company?
Yeah, so because we're going to be getting $21 US and MCF, that's like, in my lifetime, I've never thought I'd see that. The wells are going to be, our percentage are going to be putting on about 2 to 2.5 million cubic feet per day. So at the end of this 7 well program, will be upwards of about $7 million US. That's our take, free cash flow per month, just from those wells. And we'll start to generate cash right away, because we can put the wells on, and any well that we produce in a month, by the 20th of the following month, we get a check for that gas.
And that's not revenue, that's free cash flow. That's pretty substantial. Is there sort of a blue sky opportunity to, and look, I don't want to sound greedy here. I mean, you're talking, that's a pretty large free cash flow number for a company that's not even trading at that large of a valuation right now. Are there opportunities in Turkey to go find other opportunities to go and drill out, or is the focus just to stay sort of laser focused on this opportunity right here?
No, so SASB, I just see it as the the cash engine to create some investment money for other opportunities. So just on SASB, we have what we call Program A, Program B, which are A is a reserve, 7 wells. B is like the development, so another 10 wells. There's some other exploration on SASB, but it's all always about 5 to 10 BCF per pool. Off the block, there are some larger structures and larger stratigraphic type targets. We have a history since about 2000, so we have all the data. We worked up prospects. We have things mapped, but in those days, the conversation was because it's biogenic gas, there wasn't enough gas generated to actually charge the larger structures. So there was actual conscious decision to drill the SASB type targets. TPAO, now 100 miles north of us, have some very huge discoveries like 14, 19 TCF. That indicates you have thermal generated gas. That's by the evolution of the basin. And that means you have enough gas to charge very larger structures. And so the idea is to pursue, pick up some exploration blocks for these larger, when I mean larger structures, SCSB, you're talking 0.5 kilometer by 3 kilometer structures. The larger ones, you're talking 10 by 15, 5 by 10 kilometers. And instead of 10 BCF, you're talking hundreds of BCF and potentially a TCF. So those are the larger type targets we're going to pursue with the cash we generate from SASB.
Okay, so based on some just sort of back of the napkin math, that means that you guys are projecting that there's a pretty good chance that you're going to trade at, well, not projecting where you're going to trade at, but based on where you're trading today, that's 1 times projected cash flow, give or take. You think that you're going to end up issuing a dividend, or is the plan to take that money and go find bigger projects, or is it sort of going to be a blend?
Yeah, so in the evolution of a company, what happens is, you know, that you'll have a certain production size that to go out and to make the needle move a bit more, you have to find a bigger and bigger project. And you then start getting investor fatigue. So when you get to that point, yeah, I would pay a dividend on the shares to make it more attractive. And the other thing too is that I've always said that if I'm generating a lot of cash and I feel my shares or the company shares are not the value that they should be, I will use some of my cash to buy those shares and put them back into the treasury and to create more share value that way also.
That's interesting. Here in Canadian small caps, it's rare that we get to talk about companies that actually generate free cash flow. So going to be very excited to see how that plays out. Okay, so what's the sort of timeline for the drilling program you guys have coming up?
Okay, so one thing I like to explain here is because I actually answer, I'd say 95% of all investors that send me an email or the phone, and there's a conception or misconception that we're going to drive the rig up on a truck and then it's going to take 1 day to be there. This is a huge rig, and it was released from the client. It's in the water off Romania, and it was released on July 26th. And what they're doing right now is they're re-permitting, and they have to make sure that it conforms to the HSE standards. And because it's going to be in EU waters in Turkey, they're checking the hull. I'm just going through a long story. And so it was supposed to start moving out in August, but it all depends when they get the inspection and the permitting. But the latest it will be there will be September 1st, because that's where we have in our contract, we have a penalty that will be paid by the rig company if it's not there. And they will pay us roughly the same day rate that they would get if they had somebody using that rig. So it'll probably, we'll just say it'll be there for sure. September 1st, the drilling will start. Then we'll have our first well finished in 45 to 48 days. Production will be started, and it'll carry on like that with like from going from the platform to the tripod, there's an extra 4 days. So we'll be drilling wells until about May 2023. And when I talk about generating internal cash flow of about $7.5 million, to drill and all the support vessels is about 3.4 per month. So once we get to that point, we're self-funding, and that's when we will go from program A and then slide into program B to continually drill but be self-funded.
I have to ask this question with everything that's going on in the world right now. How much political risk is there being a Canadian-owned or listed company that is operating in Turkey, from your view?
So for a Canadian company like operating in Turkey, you're asking about the political risk and so on.
Yeah.
This company's been there since about, before 2000. So a contract was written, royalty agreement was made for when we have the production. And even when it was up to 35 million cubic feet per day, this field, there was never a issue with the government. They have never changed the agreement. When I went to the Turkey here last time, I sat down with the regulatory body for the oil and gas, also with the foreign investment ministry. So there is a big appetite for foreign investment, and there basically is no real political risk for a company like Trillion, especially when we are producing a domestic commodity that they really, really need.
So last question, what are the potential catalysts or near-term milestones the shareholders should be watching out for?
So one of the first ones they should be watching for would be the rig is moving, right? So like some people are worried that because of the delay with the permitting so on, that it's going to be October, November and stuff like that. But it isn't. It'll be there 1st of September. And so one of the things that people are actually looking for is the rig moving and arriving at SASB. The next thing from my experience is that the first well, people will be happy and a little bit excited, but the excitement really doesn't start until the second and third well, because people say, yep, they're doing it. It's not a one-shot deal. This is number 3 wells, and we'll have tested results and like revenue and stuff like that. And they will then know that the money was raised, we executed the project, and we're generating cash. And then there will be just a regular news like every well and so on. But the next big catalyst, big news would be we have applied for this exploration block, and the next one would be that we actually have gotten it. That those will be the big game changers for the company.
Okay, well, Arthur, thanks so much for hopping on here, and hopefully we can get you back on here as we see some of these permits get issued and the company start to come online with more production.
Yeah, okay. Thanks a lot for letting me have the chat.
Awesome. Thanks, Arthur. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please hit the like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell, and let us know what you think in the comments section. All right. Thank you, everybody.